You on the East Coast, and good morning to everyone else. My name is Richard Rapolo, and we would like to invite or welcome you to the CaseWorthy webinar featuring one of our customers, Cocoon House. So we're very fortunate to have Alex Price with Cocoon House with us today. Alex is the data project manager over there, and we're always very excited and thrilled when we do these customer webinars, because it gives a chance for the audience to kind of hear a real-life tale, if you will, of a CaseWorthy experience. So in addition to having Alex on the presentation, I'm also joined by the rest of the CaseWorthy sales team, Rhett Richens and Thomas Horst, and then also our president, Scott Argyris. So what we're going to be doing today, the agenda for today, is we will be walking through a brief company overview on CaseWorthy, and then at that point in time we will turn it over to Alex, and Alex will kind of give you an overview of their organization, you know, Cocoon House, and the types of services that they provide to their clients, and then she'll kind of talk about their prior environment before CaseWorthy, kind of the need that they had, how they determined their functionality wish list, kind of their requirements gathering. She'll kind of talk about the evaluation process that they went through and the specific reasons for choosing CaseWorthy, and then she'll close it out by talking about her implementation experience once the contracts were signed, and working with the CaseWorthy professional services team in that regard. Kind of a housekeeping note, as we go through the presentation, everybody is on mute to just kind of minimize the background noise. And so if you have questions as Alex is running through her presentation, you can expand out your GoToWebinar box there, and there will be a place that you can type in your question, or you can type in a chat, or you can raise your hand. So Scott, will kind of monitor the question queue, and since these questions will be for Alex, what we will do is we'll go ahead and address those questions once Alex is done with her presentation. So, but again, if you wanted to go ahead and type your question in while it's fresh on your mind, go ahead and do that, and then we'll just kind of review that question box when Alex is done, and we'll handle the Q&A section at that point in time. If there's any remaining time left over in our hour, we can take the reins back, the CaseWorthy team, and we can just run through, some of our analytics reporting, which is kind of our ad hoc reporting. So that's what we have on tap for today. And again, we thank everybody for taking 60 minutes out of your valuable day to learn a little bit more about Cocoon's House experience with CaseWorthy. So. From CaseWorthy's perspective, we actually began our organization, founded the organization in January of 2008. Our CEO and our founder was the president of another software company prior to founding CaseWorthy for about the 8 years prior to that, and he kind of wanted to take all those lessons learned in that prior life, move them forward, build a system again from the ground up, start new, start fresh with all those lessons learned, and couple that with just outstanding customer support, and that was kind of the whole genesis of founding CaseWorthy. Really the goal was to kind of bring new and fresh technology to the health and human services industry, and at the end of the day, we really try to work with each one of our customers to help them automate their business processes. How can we work with them and make them more efficient in their dealing with their clients, and then capturing the kinds of data that they want to capture, and then once that data is captured into CaseWorthy, giving them the ability through outstanding analytical tools to pull that data out, whether it's on the back end through a report, or maybe on a dashboard, a configurable dashboard of some key performance indicators that the organization would like to see. Some common differentiators that we have in the system that kind of cross the boundaries regardless of what vertical markets the customer might be in. You'll see we work with different types of vertical markets as CaseWorthy customers. And so the first two here have to kind of deal with our app builder development tools. These are our configuration tools that we deliver to each and every customer, and we train our customers on how to utilize these tools. And so the first one there really revolves around the ability that we can create a role specific to what a user might do within your organization. So you might have a couple users that work with certain programs, and you only want to give them access to certain functionality within the system. Then we could create a role. You name that role whatever you want. We map those users to that role. So when those users log on to the system, they're immediately going to go to that role, and they'll be presented with the functionality that you have given them in that role. Similarly, you might have other users that work in different areas, and so you'll create another role for them and define the functionality. So the point there is to make a very simple user interface for the users, only give them access to the information or the functionality that's really relevant for what they do within your organization. Why encumber them with looking at the entire system when maybe 70% of it is just not relevant for what they're doing? You'll also have the ability through the use of the tools is to do local configuration. So if you wanted to add data fields on the fly or move data fields around or add new forms or modify forms, things of that nature. So you have that ability with our tool set. So, in all these differentiators, Alex is not going to get into any of these today. So that's why we wanted to just kind of highlight some of the differentiators that we have through the CaseWorthy application. We also have a workflow engine that's part of our framework. And so any business process that you may have that requires multiple steps, you can create a workflow engine, and then as your user initiates that business process, the workflow will bring up those steps, and it will just really ensure that the user is going to capture the data that you need to have captured for that process. So workflows really make sense when you're doing client intakes. A lot of our clients will use workflows for that, because typically in a client intake you're doing several things. You're adding demographic information into the system. You might be capturing family information. You might be capturing financial assessment information. You might be documenting some presenting issues of the client through that initial intake. So whatever it happens to be, you define the steps, and then it just ensures that your user is capturing all the data needed for that process. Reporting, again, we have operational reports, service reports, program reports, outcomes reports. We have compliance reports. So if you're in a vertical market, HMIS, there are a lot of HUD reports. Goodwills have an annual statistics report. Catholic Charities has their USA, their federal USA report. So again, depending on the vertical market, if there is a federal compliance report that you need to, complete and fill out and return to the federal government, then we create those compliance reports as part of the solution that we offer. Integration is a big part of what we offer as an organization, and it predominantly results from the contemporary architecture that we've built our application on. So when it comes to things like scanning and attaching files or client photographs or PDFs or anything of that nature, just all part of the framework. You can email from the application. We keep calendars within the database as well, client calendars, staff calendars. Calendars will have a sync with Microsoft Outlook and Google Calendar. We capture electronic signatures, geocoding, so we capture latitude and longitude points for any address that's in the database, so client addresses as well as any provider addresses that you might have. Geocoding comes in handy when you're doing referrals out. If you're making a referral out, referring a client for a service, and maybe you have a couple providers in the community that can provide that service, CaseWorthy will let you know the distance in miles it is from the client address to each one of the provider addresses. So maybe you want to make the referral to the provider that's a little bit closer for the client, maybe make it a little bit easier for the client to get there. We've got scan cards, so again, if you are thinking about scan cards, if you want to issue scan cards to your clients, they'll have a barcode on them, and then you can scan the cards, and it'll automatically record service transactions into the system. So it's just all part of the framework, whether you're going to implement that today or in the future. And then we also have touchscreen capability as well. So regardless of when you log on to CaseWorthy, CaseWorthy has responsive web design capability, so it will recognize the device that you're logging on to, whether it's a laptop or a desktop or a tablet or a mobile phone, and then it'll automatically recognize that device and size up, according to the device itself. So the moral to that is you get the same user interface regardless of what device you're logging into. So it's very nice there. Some of the newer functionality that we've kind of expanded out over the last year is we have an out-facing web portal. So if your organization works with volunteers or employers in the community, if you have employment programs, you can kind of define the out-facing content that you would like to display to the community out there, outside of your user network. And so the portal is a big driver for us now, and we're doing some great things in kind of revamping that whole look and feel. So a lot of our goodwill agencies use it for volunteers and employers. Having the employer go in through that, put in their open job orders into the system, and then CaseWorthy will do the automatic job matching to let you know that of these clients you have in your database, they might be a match for these open job orders in the system. So a lot of good functionality with the out-facing web portal. And then the eligibility engine, some good functionality there as well. We have eligibility at the program level. So for each individual program that you have, you can set up the specific eligibility rules. So you might have one program that's only dependent upon financial information. If the client earns less than this amount, they're eligible for this program. You might have other programs that are more dependent on family size information. If a client has a family size greater than 5 and two children under the age of 3, then they're automatically eligible for this program. So set up all the rules on a program-by-program basis, and then CaseWorthy will let you know what programs specific clients are eligible for. In addition to the eligibility on the program side, you also have eligibility on the services that you offer as well. So if you have maybe some financial emergency assistance programs, like maybe financial assistance or rent assistance or utility assistance, then you can determine that if it is a utility assistance, you can put a dollar cap on it to say, okay, we are going to help our client pay their utility bill this month, but we're only going to go up to a cap of maybe $75 a month and nothing above that. You can also put limits to the number of times you will provide that service, whether it's on a monthly basis or an annual basis. So even if the client is eligible for that service, over the course of 12 months, you may limit it to only providing the utility assistance 8 times during the 12-month period. So again, you can put those kinds of rules on services as well. CaseWorthy as an organization, what our customers get in a partnership with us is they do get a commercial off-the-shelf solution. So we deliver our baseline functionality. In addition to that, we deliver the App Builder Development Framework or the configuration tools. And then you'll see in just a moment, we are in Microsoft Shop, so all of our reporting utilizes Microsoft technology. Some of our customers, again, we talked about the fact that we have a lot of different customers in different vertical markets within the nonprofit world, the health and human sector. So we're big in the HMIS, the homeless management information world, and continuums of care and the housing environment. We have community action agencies that use our application. We have county governments that use our application. We have faith-based organizations, rescue missions, and Catholic charities. We have Goodwill that primarily work with workforce development and employment services. So again, just a variety of different types of nonprofits. And of course, today we have Alex and Cocoon House, and they primarily work with youth So again, just a lot of different types of organizations that use CaseWorthy, an enterprise-wide software application that will allow them the flexibility to record the programs and services for the clients, the services that they provide to their clients. In terms of, for all those techies out there on the webinar today, we are a web-based application, so our customers will need a browser and an internet connection, and they'll be able to access CaseWorthy. You can see we work with all the standard browsers out there, Internet Explorer, Chrome, and Firefox. And then, of course, when we get into the mobile world, we have to have Apple and Safari into the mix to be able to connect to the iPads and the iPhones. We are a Microsoft shop, so we've written the application in the .NET framework. All data resides in a SQL Server 2012 database, and all of our reporting utilizes Microsoft technology. So all of our standard operational reports and compliance reports are written utilizing Microsoft Reporting Services, SSRS, and then our CaseWorthy Analytics also uses Microsoft technology as well. And again, if we have any time available at the end, we'll take a peek at that. So last slide, well, two slides, but and then we'll turn it over to Alex. In terms of professional services, we provide a project manager to every project. That individual kind of runs the calendar with the customer, kind of setting up all the meetings and all the activities that need to happen on the CaseWorthy side, managing our resources, as well as we also ask our clients to have a focal point of contact as well to kind of manage their resources and get the appropriate people into the meetings that are scheduled. So you can see we do the training, administration training, setup, end user training. Most projects will involve a database conversion, migrating data from an existing system into CaseWorthy. Some projects, once customers are up and running, will then involve having third-party interfaces where they'll want to share data with, CaseWorthy data with other third-party systems. So we've got the resources to do all those types of things, and so that's our professional services offering there. Again, we just wanted to thank everybody for taking an hour out of their day to hear about the Cocoon House story with CaseWorthy. And with that, Alex, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you. Let me make you the presenter here. Okay, so I've made you the presenter. You should be seeing a little pop-up box there now, Alex.
Yep. And I accepted. Can you see my screen yet?
Yeah, we're looking at the screen, but you're kind of faint there.
Oh, let me put
your audio.
Up.
Yeah,
okay, can you hear me better now?
Oh, absolutely. That sounds terrific.
Okay. Great. So before I get started, I just want to say how excited I am to do this because actually about 2 years ago, I first heard about CaseWorthy through one of these webinars, and I believe one of your clients or customers 2 years ago did a demonstration on reporting, I think. So it's exciting that it's done a full loop, and now I'm able to do the same for you guys. So I wanted to give a little information first about the organization that that I work for, Cocoon House. We're a nonprofit based in Everett, Washington, so about 30 miles north of Seattle in Snohomish County. We primarily work with homeless and at-risk youth, and our mission is to empower young people, families, and the community to break the cycle of homelessness through outreach, housing, and prevention. So just a little bit about the services that we provide. We're an HMIS compliant organization. That means that we're connected with our local COC, we receive HUD funding, and we're required to enter data into our HMIS. We have our housing programs where we have 2 emergency shelters, we have a transitional living program, and we have a maternity group home. All of those locations are actually funded through FISB with the Runaway and Homeless Youth funding, so we are also required to do RAI reporting as well, which CaseWorthy supports. Our outreach department, we provide mobile case management, so this is case management in the streets with youth who might need help with IDs, seeking housing, receiving different services. We have a drop-in center that is open 7 days a week. Youth can drop in to grab a hot meal, take a shower, do some laundry, connect to services, or just hang out and play games. And we also have street outreach, so staff are going out, meeting youth on the street. So they might be going to skate parks, going to encampments under bridges, maybe going to schools. And finally, our prevention department. This is primarily focused on the parents and guardians of teens who might be at risk or homeless. We provide counseling calls, a series of calls actually. If a parent is having issues with their teen, they can receive support that way. We also do parent education classes, support groups, and we do some seminars for teens and their families so they can do some relationship building and gain skills that way. So we established a need for a data management system probably 5 to 10 years ago, and we're here now, so it took a long time. About 5 years ago, we had an access platform developed so we could enter data into that. And as most nonprofits, we ended up having an overnight staff who had some knowledge of it and was able to create the system for us. Great. We were entering data fine. Of course, they moved on, and then we were left with this outdated system that we really had limited functionality with. We were only able to enter limited data for our housing program. It was data that we needed to collect 5 years ago. We couldn't add any new fields to it, so it was very limited in what we could do. So what that meant for our outreach prevention programs and also housing is we had to rely a lot on Excel spreadsheets. So although we have a secure network, having all your client data in spreadsheets is really not ideal. It just takes one accidental delete of a cell field and now your data has been compromised. So really was not ideal. We were spending numerous hours come reporting time just trying to manually get the data organized and get some numbers together to report to funders. So we really were unable to report confidently back to that access system. We laugh about it now, but if you ran a report at 12 p.m. and ran it again at 12:05, you would get 2 different numbers out each time. So really it was just not good numbers. We weren't reporting confidently, and it was just a lot of data that we really couldn't manage. And as we were growing as an agency and we had these new funders come on board who were requiring new data to be collected, tracked, and then reported out, we just could not keep up. We actually have upwards of 30 funders, and each funder probably has 1 or 2 different data points that they want. So, I mean, it's getting up into 50 or 100 different pieces of data that we have to report annually. So there really was a very big need, and I'm hoping that some of this resonates with some of your nonprofit organizations too. So about 2 years ago, I was told by our CEO to find a software solution and get a new database, which is obviously easier said than done. At the very beginning, what we wanted to establish was this wish list. What did we really want from the system? And then knowing that, we could focus our efforts on looking at software solutions that would meet the need. So we established a list of needs and a list of wants. And the needs were things that we absolutely had to have. If the solution didn't offer that, we could not go with them. Then we had the list of wants where it would be really great if it could do this. I would love to be able to see this. But if the solution didn't have it, it wasn't a deal breaker. So once we established the list of needs and wants, we got this big wish list. And so what you're seeing on the screen right now is actually just a small snapshot. This is probably actually about a third or a quarter of that list. So we had a lot that we were hoping for. And I'm not going to speak to each of these, but I just wanted to highlight a few of them. Primarily what we wanted was a comprehensive case management tool. We wanted the system to do everything that the case managers were doing. We wanted to be able to enter in client data, log the services they received, track outcomes, write case notes, and do goal setting. That was extremely important to us, what the end users and the staff were seeing on the front end. And on the back end, what we really needed was a good reporting tool. So you can see there, kind of towards the bottom, I have the ad hoc report building. Actually, what CaseWorthy was able to provide for us, as Richard was saying, we have some baseline reports, some of the big HUD federal funding reports. We're able to customize reports that we know we'll be using frequently. And then we have the use of an ad hoc report. So if the CEO is running out the door and needs a quick number and we haven't built it into a report, we can grab it quickly. So those were really the two things that we really had to have. And a few of the other things, and again, just to speak to what Richard said, we really needed smartphone and tablet capability, particularly with our outreach program. As they're in the field, they're doing work mobilely, they needed to have access to kind of enter data on the go. And we also wanted to have simple things like having a participant photograph of our clients. We wanted to enroll individuals into multiple programs at one time. I think this is typical of a lot of nonprofits, but the youth move throughout our different programs. So they go from emergency shelters to transitional living, and they also have a case manager and outreach and drop-in. So we needed to have the flexibility to have multiple program enrollments. And finally, another big piece, kind of that unit tying together of families. So as I said, with our prevention program, we have parents who are tied to youth. We needed the youth to be considered the head of household in their own right, as well as the parent, because they are the head of household when working with prevention. But we needed a way to tie the two so that we knew they were a family unit. And again, these are all things that CaseWorthy were able to offer us. So I'm going to speak a little bit about the evaluation process that we went through, and then specifically what we did with CaseWorthy. So initially, I want to say I probably looked at about 15 plus software companies. I did demonstrations, looked into the websites, did some research, and there's a lot out there. It's overwhelming. It's really hard to scale down these software companies to one that you think would work, which is why it took such a long process. And we knew that this would be such a change for staff, which already changes hard, but also just a culture shift in the way that we thought about data. We were very nonchalant before, kind of just entering into Excel haphazardly, and shifting from that to a system that was going to be used daily by all of our staff was really a big deal for us. So I tried to have staff involved at all levels of the agency. We had case managers and support staff all the way up to our Chief Program Officer and CEO. So poor Richard probably did 6+ demonstrations with us because what we tried to do was do a demonstration and focus on a specific area of the system. So we would do a demonstration just looking at the end user case management tool, and we'd have case managers sit in and view the system. Then we would do a demonstration specifically on the reporting tool and have some of the grant writers and reporting managers come in and view the system as well. And we did this with a couple of other software companies as well, really to have a full scope of what the system was capable of and if it would work for us. And what we ended up doing was narrowing down the 15 to 4, which I kind of call our top picks. And what you see on the screen there is a grid-looking thing. It's not specific to any software company. I just plugged some numbers in so that you could get a feel for what we did. But we identified these 7 really core areas that we needed to evaluate. And the initials that you see, the A, K, T, and B, those actually reference some of our staff from different departments. And we sat there and we did a demonstration of the system, and we did a scoring 1 through 4 of what we thought. And I cannot tell you how beneficial this was to the process, because when you scale from 15 to 4, you think you have 4 of the best. And what this scoring really helped us to do was immediately, as soon as we were done with the scoring, we knocked off 2 of the software solutions we were looking at, just because CaseWorthy and another vendor really blew it out of the water. And actually CaseWorthy had the highest scoring through this process, so that was also an indication that we were going to go with them. Again, I would really recommend when evaluating software companies to do something along these lines. Identify what's important for you and your nonprofit, and really use a tool like this. Have multiple people involved in the process, especially when, as a nonprofit, this is just such a big culture shift, and it's really an agency-wide extremely lengthy process that you're going into. Knowing everything about the system is extremely, extremely important. So once we got CaseWorthy nailed down with another vendor, we did a cost analysis, and we looked at the implementation costs. Obviously, those are going to be higher because you have the year one startup, the implementation, the setup, the customization, and then the reoccurring cost analysis. And this was something that was extremely important to us because we knew that we had to present this to our CEO and the board had to approve, just because such a big purchase for the agency. So those are really some of the steps that we did to really nail down CaseWorthy as our top contender. So the reason why we chose CaseWorthy over the other 14 software solutions that we looked at, the primary reason for me has just been the transparent communication. I know Scott's on this call and Richard, but speaking to them, we were able to speak to developers who usually don't have a voice in the process that you don't speak to. We've had a project manager, we've spoken to her manager, just at all levels of the agency. We have just had very transparent, open communication. Some of the other vendors that we looked at, you definitely got that sales pitchy, oh, absolutely, we can do that, don't worry, and then obviously it comes into the cost, and CaseWorthy was very frank, saying, yes, we offer it, or no, this is not something we offer, we're really interested in looking into this, please let me bring it to a team meeting and come back to you. And that's what I have experienced with CaseWorthy since we've signed our contract. Is that any time I have a question or recommendation, I know that it's being taken to all levels of the agency and then being brought back to us and letting us know if it's an option. So the communication with CaseWorthy has been fantastic. I also wanted to add, prior to signing with CaseWorthy, we actually called references, and we also asked about that communication customer service piece because it's such a big element of including or implementing any technology into your agency, and everyone had absolutely positive feedback that the customer service was fantastic, and that really was key for us because we knew with any technology you need to have a big customer service relationship because there will always be some errors or questions. Secondly, CaseWorthy offered us a fixed cost structure, which I cannot tell you how great this was. All of the other vendors had this very open-ended, this is the estimate, it's likely to increase, we don't know how much it's going to increase because we don't yet know about your agency, you'll have to sign a contract to find out. And that really didn't work for us. As you know, in nonprofit, we don't have unlimited budget to do this. And CaseWorthy coming in saying, this is the amount we think it will be based on what you've told us. If we end up spending more man hours, more labor, it's more complicated than we thought, well, bad on us, we'll bite the bullet. And that was really, really refreshing for us, and it was great going to our CEO saying that and the board because, of course, they loved that, knowing that it was a fixed cost structure. As Richard spoke about earlier, they're an HMIS compliant organization, and this has been fantastic for us. What it essentially means is that CaseWorthy does all of the legwork when HUD changes their standards and definitions. And if you're HMIS compliant, you know that HUD changes this at least once or twice a year. And it's very time consuming to have all of your new forms done, staff understand the definitions, but then also to enter that into a database and have the data fields set up and ready to go. So CaseWorthy being HMIS compliant was paramount for us, and so far they've been great. I think there's already been a HUD update since we've gone live, and we'll be doing a software upgrade soon to implement that. And just the weight off my shoulder knowing that CaseWorthy is able to do that for us has been fantastic. Also, just the new and developing technology. I spoke about this a little bit before. Even in our customization phase of our project manager, if I identified something that, hey, it would be really great if the system could do this, I know that that thought I've had has been taken to a team meeting, it's been spoken about, and usually they come back and I have some sort of, hey, we've done a temporary fix for now, but it's something we want to look into doing agency-wide. And that was another feedback we got from references, some of their customers who've been with them for years, is that at the Scott level, calling and just saying, hey, how's the system working? What else can we do to improve to make this a better solution for you guys? So CaseWorthy are extremely customer focused and always willing and wanting to improve their technology to meet our needs. And finally, within our fixed cost structure, we had 2 on-site visits included, and that was really important to us some of the other solutions we looked into did not offer that. It was an additional $3,000 or $4,000 to have that, which again, with a limited budget, that wasn't an option to just add that in and not think about it. So having it included with CaseWorthy was really fantastic. There's only so much communication you can do over email and video call and phone before you just need to see that person. So Emily, our project manager, actually came out to do a 2-day discovery period with us where we evaluated essentially our entire agency and what we needed from CaseWorthy. And she also came out for a 3-day training visit right before we went live and actually worked directly with the staff doing data entry. And that was so important to the staff, and I still get positive feedback about that today. So those are the reasons why we chose CaseWorthy. And I wanted to speak just a little bit about how we implemented the project. So we signed our contract at the very end of March, April time. So it's been about a 6-7 month period. And we actually went live at the very beginning of September. So from day one, we have had individualized support from our project manager. Her name is Emily, so if I say Emily again, you know who that is. Richard passed us off, and we met with Emily and her supervisor, and Emily flew out, I think, the next month to do the discovery with us. The response time working with Emily, I still have communication with Richard and Scott, has been fantastic, and knowing that they almost know our programs as well as us. And that's extremely important for us because she'll already be asking me, hey, I don't know if that's going to work with your program. And it's really great to know that they really care about what we're doing as a nonprofit agency and making CaseWorthy fit for us. There has been administrative training and customization again since the discovery phase. So what you'll do as an agency is identify someone who maybe is a little tech savvy, someone who enjoys this work, or someone who might be stepping into the role of managing the database. And you'll work with the project manager. I was meeting with Emily 3 times a week, and we would essentially go through CaseWorthy. It was a blank slate on our train site and customize every single detail. We were customizing the workflows and what the drop-down options would be. And this was really important for us because at the very beginning of this process, we looked at the option of, do we use a software solution that's already in place, like CaseWorthy, and use that platform, or do we look at completely customizing and creating our own data management solution? And some of our staff really wanted to lean that way so that we had 100% control of the solution, and half of us led the other way, that we didn't want that responsibility. And I feel like CaseWorthy has really been the best of both worlds because we have that solution and the technology behind CaseWorthy that we feel comfortable with the system, but we have been able to have the customization as if it were our own. Obviously, the baseline structure of the system is the same, but you can change every detail within that, which has really been great for us. And it's given us ownership as an agency over the system that we're using. So I don't feel like we're using CaseWorthy software. I feel like we're using Cocoon House software, and it's just hosted by CaseWorthy. And that was really important for us, and it was really great actually for me to be able to do that training and customization, because now when staff have small errors that come up, I'm able to fix them. I don't have to constantly call CaseWorthy and use a help desk. So it's really good to have that support in-house, and I would definitely recommend that anyone who goes with a solution have someone in-house who can do that support for you. We're currently going through this process. We held off on the reporting slightly, and I anticipate that we'll probably continue this process for a while as new funders come in and new data fields are required. But we've also had the ability to customize reports. As Richard was saying, there is an enormous amount of baseline reports, one's client-served reports, very simple reports that everyone can use. And then we've also been working to customize some more specific reports. So as an agency, for example, we really wanted to have an outcome tracking report that was very specific to what we track. So we customized that. We've had some other reports customized because we have to track critical issues of use, for example. So there's flexibility at all levels to customize reports, and there are the options to have them dump into Excel, so you can use the data tools and the pivot table to manually manipulate the data. There is the ad hoc tool where, again, I want to say, Richard, that it's a pivot table where you can drag and drop fields to get that working. So that's just an ongoing process, but again, something that was really important to us with a solution that we had control over the reports. And finally, I just wanted to say a little bit about the go live. I mentioned already that Emily came on site for a 3-day process, and I was extremely nervous because most people who come into human services do so because they want to get away from data, they want to get away from tracking and doing all the paperwork. And I was really worried that we were coming from this very lax Excel tracking to this culture shift of a system that was going to be used daily. And we actually have it used, I think, by 33 different staff members. So it's pretty extensive. The training that we did with Emily, I got great feedback. Everyone absolutely loved it. They loved Emily. And I think what was great with that process is that they weren't hearing it from me. They hear about data enough from me. But having Emily there, someone representing CaseWorthy from CaseWorthy, she was able to answer any questions that they had. Everyone left that 3-day training feeling refreshed and just really excited about the system. And I think going through this process, like I said, I think it's been about 2 years of first hearing about CaseWorthy to where we are now, partly on our part for taking a long time, but getting that kind of validation from staff that they love the system, that it's easy to use, and that they enjoy going in and tracking information, I think is the biggest accomplishment that we could have had through this entire process. So that was all I had for today. I know there's going to be a Q&A session now if you have any questions. If not, feel free to jot down my email and number if you think about something in a couple of days or you don't want to ask in this format. That's totally okay. I'm happy to chat with anyone. And yeah, I think that's it, Richard. Thank you.